Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This is the Bodega Cat Book Club Health Edition. And today we're continuing our reading of Never Be Sick Again by Raymond Francis. Okay, so today we're going to be reading chapter 9, and this will be part 2. All right, let's get to it. Is that a jellyfish in your potato? Producing new foods with modern genetic engineering is no minor event. Genetic engineers cut, splice, and transfer genes between totally unrelated species to produce combinations that could never ever occur in nature. Scientists are inserting jellyfish genes into potatoes, scorpion genes into vegetables, human genes into pigs, and fish genes into tomatoes. God, that's crazy. Sounds like a little Frankenstein experiment. Perfect accuracy using these gene splicing techniques and knowing exactly what will be produced is almost impossible. Researchers at the prestigious Rowett Institute in Scotland, excuse me, today is a dry day. um, I took a sip of my tea there. Okay, let's try that again. Researchers at the prestigious Rowett Institute in Scotland studied different batches of genetically modified potatoes and found substantial differences from the same gene insertion. Two lines of potatoes grown from the same gene insertion and the same growing conditions had a 20% difference in protein content, demonstrating the unpredictability inherent in genetic modification. Genetically modified foods may be of altered nutritional value, and they also may contain allergens or toxins they would not normally contain, including ones not normally associated with that type of food. For example, genes from Brazil nuts were used to engineer a new soybean, but people allergic to Brazil nuts were now highly reactive to these soybeans. Fortunately, the problem was discovered before anyone was harmed. Other genetically modified foods may present similar risks. A 1999 study printed in the British medical journal Lancet showed that genetically modified potatoes damage the stomach and intestinal linings of rats. People are also eating genetically modified potatoes, but similar tests are not being performed on humans. Do you recall one of the health, quote, scandals of the late 1980s? Many people who took an essential amino acid called tryptophan, which is used for treating depression and other emotional problems, had devastating reactions. 37 people died, 1,500 were permanently disabled, and 5,000 became extremely ill. So that was a manufactured crisis, right? As it turned out, one particular manufacturer in Japan had produced tryptophan using a genetically modified bacterium, which did produce commercial quantities of tryptophan, but which also produced a powerful nerve poison. Of course, this poison did not exist until we created it with genetic engineering, so it could not be detected by existing safety tests. We cannot test for toxins we don't know about, which is the problem with genetically engineered foods. They are capable of producing the unexpected. Supermarkets full of genetic experiments. Food industry journals estimate that about 70% of the processed food in our supermarkets would test positive for genetically modified ingredients. Most common are genetically engineered corn, soybeans, tomatoes, yellow crookneck squash, canola, papaya, and russet Burbank potatoes. Other foods are being developed, such as apples, rice, wheat, broccoli, cucumbers, carrots, melons, and grapes. Genetically modified versions of these foods are either in stores already or they soon will be. In 1999, a 1999 study by Consumer Reports found that only one-third of U.S. shoppers realized they're eating genetically modified foods. The FDA does not require these foods to be labeled, quote, genetically modified. They probably should. And consumers do not realize what they are buying. People buy so-called, quote, fresh produce, unaware that these foods did not evolve through a natural process. As always, your best bet is to purchase only fresh, organic foods. If you're unable to buy organic, stay away from commercial foods most likely to be genetically modified, particularly corn and soy, including tofu. Oh boy, we Asians love tofu. Avoid commercially processed and prepared foods, 70% of which contain genetically modified components, often including soy as a hidden ingredient. Even organic foods are not guaranteed to be free from genetically modified components. Segregating organic crops completely from genetically modified crops during harvest, handling, transport, and mailing is not possible. Similarly, insects, birds, and wind carry seeds and pollen from genetically modified plants into organic fields and cross-pollinate. America's crops are also contaminated by genetic modification that the Organic Federation of Australia announced in 2001 that it could no longer verify the purity of organic crops imported from the United States. Oh boy. Sounds like a lot of these issues are human created. Closer to home, Farm Verified Organic, an organic certification agency, has stated the GM, genetically modified pollution of American commodities, is now so pervasive, we believe it is not possible for farmers in North America to source seed free from it. Our supposedly uncontaminated organic crops of corn, soy, and canola are now testing positive for the presence of foreign genetic material. As you know, commercial farming produces sick plants, which are sprayed with with chemical fertilizers and pesticides to keep them alive. To cut down on pesticide use, some genetically modified crops, such as corn and potatoes, have been engineered to produce toxic pesticides internally. These plants actually become their own pesticide factories. The long-term health effects of these pesticides are unknown. With such crops, the potential certainly exists for long-term nutritional deficiencies, toxicities, and even genetic mutations in humans. A December 1999 issue of Nature reported that genetically modified crops engineered to produce their own pesticides actually were poisoning the soil. Pesticides leaching from the plant's roots were killing beneficial bacteria in the soil, disrupting the soil food web, and threatening soil ecology. This problem is severe. The quality, oops, sorry, dropped my glasses there. The quality of the soil has everything to do with the health and nutritional content of the crops it produces. Genetically modified organisms are problematic because they are extremely hard to control. Genes do not exist by themselves. They exist as part of interactive networks. It kind of gives pause to the phrase, we are one, isn't it? Everything is connected to each other. The splicing of genes results in not only the desired characteristics, but also in other unpredictable effects. Given that the species developed by Mother Nature work just fine, why take these unnecessary risks? Right. Because humans like to play God. And that is a very stupid thing to do. Progress? At what price? The companies that supply genetically modified seeds, such as Archer Daniels Midland and Monsanto, oh, the evil Monsanto, oh boy, they should be dismantled, believe they are pioneers in a technology that can serve humankind and offer myriad benefits now and in the future. Now that's interesting. You don't hear of Archer Daniels Midland very often. In fact, you hear us at Monsanto a lot, but not the Archer Daniels. Interesting, eh? Scientists in this field argue that genetically modified tools increase yields and are necessary to feed this hungry world. They argue that crops can be engineered to reduce environmental pesticide pollution because pesticides are produced internally by the plants. They argue that the plants can be engineered to resist chemical weed killers, so farmers can use these chemicals without fear of harming crops. Those are all false premises, isn't it? Interesting. Future possibilities include engineering plants that are better able to withstand harsh environmental conditions, permitting farming in areas not presently suitable. Another possibility is the engineering of crops with increased nutritional content. Clearly, genetically modified foods present great promise, but as always, we must consider the whole picture. These foods also present enormous risks for which there is little financial incentive to investigate and plenty of incentive to overlook. Safety tests for these newly created species should be at least as rigorous as those for new food additives. But they are not. No single regulatory agency is in charge of genetically modified foods. 8 governmental agencies are involved under 12 different laws, none of which deal specifically with genetically modified foods. Let's hope that changes under Robert Kennedy Jr. Hmm, we'll see. I think he's doing a good job so far. He just needs to speed it up a little bit. But yes, he's got a lot of work to do. A lot of uh things to clean out, let's just say. Biotechnology companies do their own testing and are not required to inform the FDA if they suspect a problem. Huge corporations and large sums of money are involved. You should just take the money away, I think. Everything is so integrated into money. Money is like the foundational, fundamental um, thing that kind of keeps the house of cards together. We should just do away money. That's what I say. Sorry, little squirrel there. Huge corporations and large sums of money are involved, yet we rely on the honor system alone. At the very least, people have a right to know what they're eating. We should insist that genetically engineered foods be labeled as such. In order to make our voices heard, contact your elected representatives and tell them what you think. Misleading thoughts about birth defects. I think a lot of these companies, large corporations, and politicians get away with what they get away with because, we don't say anything. We're too, I get it that we're too busy trying to make money and put food on the table. Maybe, that was probably the plan to keep us so busy and enslaved to our job that we don't really, you know, uh, pick our head up above the water once in a while and kind of look and take a breath, right? And do our own research and make some noise. I don't know. Anyways, misleading thoughts about birth defects. It's a vicious cycle, isn't it? It's like the hamster wheel going round and round and round and round and round. Okay, we got to break that hamster wheel. One hamster at a time, right? One of the central points of confusion regarding genetics and disease is the common misunderstanding between genetic and congenital defects. Most people assume that a condition present at birth is genetically determined. Not so. In a newborn baby, the environmental conditions in the womb contributed to every step of its development. Defects caused by problematic conditions in the womb are congenital, not genetic. Building a baby puts a huge demand on the mother, which can be met only with a much higher than normal intake of nutrients. Grave consequences often affect the developing fetus if a mother fails to obtain proper nutrition. Congenital defects, biochemical and physical defects present at birth, are not determined by genes, but by the same two causes responsible for all disease: deficiency and toxicity. If the mother's cells are neither deficient nor toxic, her baby's chances for a healthy life increase dramatically. As a fetal passes through various developmental stages, tissues and cells grow very quickly. Rapidly dividing cells are at a greater risk of suffering from insufficient nutrients, too much of certain hormones, or the presence of certain toxins. These conditions can alter the development of the baby's tissues, permanently affecting the physical and mental function of the child. An unfavorable environment in the womb causes a developing fetus to make compromises in order to compensate for deficiency or toxicity. These compensations come at a very high price, a price that often is invisible and impossible to measure. Perhaps the newborn's nervous system is compromised and a child's IQ will be lower than it might otherwise be. Perhaps the baby's digestive system is not fully developed, leading to digestive problems, disease, and shortened lifespan. Perhaps the circulatory system is not fully developed, making it impossible for optimal amounts of nutrients and oxygen to reach the tissues, thus guaranteeing premature aging and disease. Perhaps the baby is born with a cleft palate, a club foot, or a heart defect. Some of these problems are obvious at birth, but most are not. When they are obvious, we usually blame them on genetics, but they are really congenital. To avoid these problems, parents, especially prior to and during pregnancy, must follow the six pathways closely, optimizing their cellular function and minimizing the chances of congenital problems in their children. Choosing your destiny. Although perfect nutrition, perfect genes, a pure environment, and ideal behavior do not exist, these factors write the story of your life, including how many chapters you will finish. The interaction between genetic inherited genes, nutritional intake, the environmental, and our beliefs at any point in time are the triggers that determine our current state of health or disease, including how long we live. Now, this sentence is italicized by the author, so I'm going to read it again. The interaction between inherited genes, nutritional intake, the environment, and our beliefs at any point in time are the triggers that determine our current state of health or disease, including how long we live. Now, it's very interesting because he includes the nature and nurture theory, right? And also our belief system, which is, I think, very critical because our beliefs dictate our actions. So if your belief is flawed, then your actions will be flawed. And we're seeing it play out with the LA riots. This is recorded in June 2025. Uh, Very interesting, isn't it? And the Buddha in the Eightfold Path talks about um, having the right belief system, the right thinking, right? Which is basically your right belief system, your premise, the premise. So going back to Descartes is very interesting. You want to analyze your belief system to see if it's right or wrong. I still do that with mine, you know, uh, with my belief system. And sometimes the truth doesn't reveal to you until, maybe like years down the line, but you always want to approach your belief system with a grain of salt, whatever you believe in, right? With a grain of salt. And always question, especially the big ones like politics and religion. I always question those. Yeah. So let's read that sentence again. It's italicized. The interaction between inherited genes, nutritional intake, the environment, and our beliefs at any point in time are the triggers that determine our current state of health or disease, including how long we live. Boy, that's an interesting, important sentence, isn't it? Even that you want to take with a grain of salt. You got to chew on it, digest it, really think about it, right? And not accept it as truth, as, oh, truth, right? Interesting, eh? By changing the conditions inside your body, you can signal your genes to express in different ways. Our society tends to think that disease is the result of aging. Not true. The Hunzas and other historically healthy populations lived to very old ages without disease. Disease is a result of the rate at which we age, not the number of years we have inhabited the earth. The rate is affected by, quote, aging genes, unquote, which we can choose to keep turned off. You can create a younger and healthier you, as was suggested by author Vander, MD, in his 1981 book, Nutrition, Stress, and Toxic Chemicals, An Approach to Environmental Health Controversies. Dr. Vander said, different environments, by altering gene expressions, can produce an incredible variety of, quote, yous. By assuming that inherited genes cause disease, one assumes that disease occurs regardless of dietary and lifestyle factors. In other words, environment. Well, there is something to be said about aging, um, but I think we're contributing, we're probably accelerating it because we are contributing to it, you know, because we all die. That's just a fact of life. Now, there are theories out there that contradicts that, which is very interesting. But we're not there yet. Um, anyways, that's a different topic. Probably for another book. How to live long life, right? Like Methuselah. Methuselah lived to be what, 900 and something, 69 or whatever that number is in the Bible. Uh, and there are theories floating out there or rumors that he's still alive. I don't know. We'll see. I've never met him, so I can't deny or verify or whatever it is that the phrase that they use. Anyways, very interesting. Okay. Sorry, a little squirrel there, but let me try that. Let's try that paragraph again. By assuming that inherited genes cause disease, one assumes that disease occurs regardless of dietary or and lifestyle factors. In other words, environment. Not so, which is why we can have such a powerful influence on the balance between health and disease. Genes are important, but they are only one small piece of a much larger puzzle. Fundamentally, there is only one disease, malfunctioning cells, and it has only two causes, deficiency and toxicity. Regardless of the recipe you start with, a dish is only as good as the ingredients put into it. Excuse me. Oy, very dry weather today. Mm, took a sip of my tea there. All right, let's try that paragraph again. Regardless of the recipe you start with, a dish is only as good as the ingredients put into it. That's just one of the puzzles. If you have really good ingredients, but you have a horrible cook, well, that kind of ruins the dish. Or if you have a good cook that is trying to new dish that doesn't know what she's doing or he's doing, that's another component to it, right? So it kind of depends. The same goes for a cell. When a cell is provided with the proper nutrients, kept free from toxins, and placed in a supportive environment, health supporting genes are activated. Aging and disease causing genes remain dormant, and both your cells and you are healthy. To move yourself in the right direction on the genetic pathway, create a healthy environment for your genes and protect them from damage. End of chapter 9. Wow, very interesting chapter, eh? So, yeah, just put in the comments below some of your experiences with health and shopping and organic and non-organic foods and um, farming and things like that. Share with the community some of your experiences and some of your belief systems that have changed, that have not changed, that have solidified or make more true for you, whatever certain belief systems. So share that with the community and join us with our other book clubs. We have a spiritual book club on Mondays, and Thursdays we have financial book clubs. So feel free to join us there. You can sign up, check it out in our website or or on our YouTube if you can't join us. In the meantime, stay safe out there. It's a crazy, crazy world. And yeah, do more meditation to keep the um, crazy world more sane if you can. So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed that, and we will continue our reading next week. In the meantime, I hope you guys have a great day. Okay, bye bye now.